Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Monica P. Hall, aka Conduit of Healing, and it is the last day of January in the year 2021. Hallelujah. We've gotten through 1 month, and it was hard. It was not an easy month. So many transitions, so many transformations, so much chaos to wade through. And of course, the last time that we met, I told you that new energy was coming in to greet us. You know what? Plot twist. New Earth is coming to us. We're not having to necessarily leave the physical plane to go to it. Yeah, it's been a shocking, very kind of confusing, perplexing time. So, what am I going to talk to you guys about today? So, the crew, spirit, my guides, if you will, have asked me to talk to you about something that I feel like when you're in a spiritual journey and when you're pursuing yourself, which is the whole purpose of this, please, goodness, if you don't know that the whole purpose of spiritual journey is to pursue your best and highest self that you can embody at this given time, that's what we're doing here. It really isn't about others. It really is about ourselves. And by applying ourselves and learning and stretching and transforming and ascending, we therein are teachers, all of us, right? By being physical examples of what is possible and what we're capable of. And if you didn't realize that every single, philosopher, guru, teacher, holy person that a lot of us say that we are trying to emulate. I mean, that's what they were doing. They were literally using their lives to demonstrate to the rest of us that it is possible to pursue a higher version of yourself and to embody that while you're still alive. So I hope that's clear. It really isn't about you teaching others so much as it is really about you striving yourself and kind of following the calls of the universe to evolve, to transform, to grow. Okay, so that's thing number one. Hopefully you got that clear. And if you really didn't know that, perhaps just pause right here in the video, maybe contemplate that for maybe 5 minutes before you continue. If you're still here, I'm assuming that you're ready to continue. And so what am I going to talk about? I'm going to talk about something the crew wanted me to convey, and that is gaming the system. And what do I mean by gaming the system? A lot of times when we have pursuits of things that really require us to fully apply ourselves, we think that if we approach it from an academic or a mental or philosophical or logical standpoint, that we're actually making progress. And no, we're not. We're not. It's really nice. Let me just start by saying it is really nice that a lot of folks and souls who were born before us, anywhere from, decades to centuries to eons, it was very nice for them to leave some sort of form of record, whatever the record may be, to say, hey, we were here. This is what we learned. This is information for you to not only take in, but, in your own time, expand on this information. And so where I feel like we went wrong as a species, and I'm going to just say it, where we went wrong. Where we went wrong is to kind of dive into the booby trap, if you will, or the trappings of ego. This idea that if my mind says I know something, then I actually live it. And that's not true. And we see that in a lot of spiritual disciplines. A lot of people being able to, recall verse, recall scripture, recall passages from their favorite holy book, or recall the wisdom of some master that's not them, or recall their quotes, and think that that is actually their experience, and think that they are actually applying their best, Whereas these very same people are still holding on to resentments that they haven't, worked through, still holding on to pain that they refuse to even acknowledge, to approach so that they can heal, so that they can actually move on from, refuse to acknowledge their own shortcomings that is actually kind of imprisoning them, if you will, and keeping them stuck. And so therefore they're actually not going anywhere except in their mind. Their life hasn't changed. There has been very little spiritual progress. There might be material progress. Maybe you make a little bit more money. Maybe you like have more things. Maybe you live in a nicer place. Maybe you have some interesting initials behind your name that reflect some sort of education, but you are still the same. So when you have things, but you haven't changed, are we trying to call that success? A lot of us are. A lot of us really are. Now, mind you, I was born psychic, and at one point in my life, I decided I needed to refine what was naturally mine. Basically, take a diamond in the rough and go cut out all the parts that were keeping me from being as brilliant as I felt that I could be, and as far as I felt spirit pushing me to go. So I went and I studied in an institute, and they had a certification program, and I got certified and have been tested. So if any of you have any questions about whether or not I've actually been tested as a psychic, or if I've had any quote unquote formal training, the answer is yes, and have been tested several times, and so on and so forth. So yeah, not just natural, but I felt the need to go and get myself refined in that way. Same thing with Reiki. Reiki came to me before I ever went to get my first attunement. Vibrating hands, like, chakras trying to open up, and it was very, very clear. Oh, okay, we're going to do energy healing. Let me go find the discipline that works best for me. Okay, so this is where we get stuck. I could have, and people do this, they get stuck in their certifications, they get stuck in their studies, they get stuck in their pursuit of academic excellence when it comes to spirituality. But meanwhile, they're still carrying their childhood wounds. They're still being, played like puppets by their shadow selves. They're still avoiding intimacy. They're still avoiding emotional availability, and yet they think that they are qualified to help people. No, you're not. No, because here's the thing. All the books and all the words and all the records and everything, it was to give you guidelines, to give you encouragement, to give you kind of bullet points, if you will, to say, hey, you actually are going in the right direction. This is why I'm leaving you these love notes, or these scriptures, or these gospels, these hieroglyphs. I'm letting you know, yes, you're moving in the right direction. But it's really the spirit of all things, the divine, the creative, if you will, that is called all of us, that is relentlessly always calling all of us to push further, to go beyond, to think of ourselves as bigger, broader, without limitation. Now, how do I know this? Because if you look at what is natural around us, not just in our daily lives, but in nature, right? On the planet, in the solar system, in the galaxy, if you will, in the universe as we know it, nothing stays the same. Nothing is finite. It is always changing. It is always growing. It is always seemingly being destroyed so it can be reborn anew. And we are not any different than that. But we, with our brains, with our free will, we can choose to conjure all of these delusions that say, I'm working so hard at this, when really it's just an elaborate mental exercise. And meanwhile, still your heart and your soul and your core being are in shambles, looking at you like, are you serious right now? Great. We read all of these books. We did all this chanting. We did all this praying. We did all of this meditation, but you're actually not addressing the core of us, of what's ailing us, our broken heart, our disappointments, our inability to move beyond our fears of the unknown and the what ifs, and what if I get hurt, and what if I can't recover, and what if I'm not strong enough, the what ifs. If we continue to harbor these things rather than working through them, pushing through them, talking through them, crying through them, addressing them, doing whatever we need to do to heal these things, if we're not actually doing that, everything else is a mind exercise. And some of us are really taking these mind exercises and being so grateful with these little certificates, these little certifications, these degrees, these little pat on the heads by our own human system, and saying, I'm the master of something, until you're triggered in a situation that you have not learned to react to in a healthy way. Until your hurt is triggered, until your anger is triggered. And then none of that education matters. None of it comes out. Why? Because you never address the core issue. So we think we're gaming the system, but we're not. We have to remember what the system is. The system is the creator of all things saying, ascend, 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 grow, 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 evolve, 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 enhance, enlighten, go, 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 go. If we're not doing that, we're not in alignment. So if we're not in alignment, like, what are we manifesting other than delusions? And I'm not laughing at us so much as I find it amusing that as co-creators, this is what some of us choose to do with that gift of co-creation. We choose to create this farce of a life and look out beyond us and assume that because we're lying to ourselves, everyone outside of us is buying the lie as well and saying, oh, you're great. Now, mind you, there are some people who are not aware of what's going on, so that they will call somebody who's self-delusional great because they aren't aware of themselves, they aren't aware of themselves enough to know the difference. But once you start really doing your own work on yourself, you absolutely can see where other people are struggling with themselves. And so in order to be effective, truly effective in one another's lives, the first thing we have to understand, number one, is this is not about controlling one another. This is not about leadership of one another. This is about leadership of oneself. This is about trying to get ourselves in alignment with all that there is. This is about constantly reminding ourselves, you know what? You're not going to be able to continue to walk down this path and carry your burdens from yesterday, yesteryear, the burdens in your DNA, the burdens as part of ancestral legacy. You're not going to be able to do it. You won't be able. It's going to get too heavy because it's going to get to be too much, especially the longer you live. If you never put anything down, if you never heal through any hurt, here's the thing: you're not going to be able to make it through the process successfully. Why? Because this entire thing we call life is a series of relationships. It's literally one relationship after the other, after the other, after the other. We're having a relationship with ourselves. We're having a relationship with the creator and all there is. We're having a relationship with nature. We're having a relationship with our children, with our friends, with society, so on and so forth. So it's all relationships. So if you have not established a relationship with yourself where you can't basically say, hey, you're doing that defense mechanism thing that you do, and you know what, once upon a time it was a good thing because it got us out of a situation, or it helped us survive a certain specific situation and time in our lives. But guess what? We're not there anymore. So we don't need to carry this defense mechanism forward. But that's the thing. We don't even recognize when we're quote unquote out of the woods. We're in a quote unquote safe place, or quote unquote safe space, or we're not surrounded by those who would harm us or abuse us. We can't discern the difference between friend and foe. We don't know that we should be actually putting down our defense mechanism and picking up a sense of love, of awareness, of being lovable, of being able to love, being able to give, being able to receive, because we're so busy defending against enemies that may no longer be there. So if I can't discern friend from foe, how am I, as a light worker, as a psychic medium, as a mentor, how am I going to help others discern? You see what I'm saying? And that's what I mean by gaming the system. A lot of people are out there going through all the motions, going to all the workshops, being ordained, doing all these things. And yet, this hasn't changed. And when this doesn't change, and where your relationship with all there is doesn't change, and when you can't, tell the truth to yourself of who you are so that you can keep yourself from being self-destructive, how are you going to lead others to recognize those things in themselves? You see what I'm saying? And meanwhile, the creator of all things hasn't stopped the relentless request: grow, change, align, flow, enlighten, evolve. Hasn't stopped, won't shut up, so relentless. Every time we think that we've made it past that part, I got another degree, I got more money, I got more things, I got the hottest partner, I've got the nicest car, I got the nicest house, I got the biggest house, I go on the most luxurious vacations, I have all the stuff. The divine doesn't care. What does it care about that? It is saying, yeah, but you didn't evolve. You didn't grow. You're not more enlightened. You haven't changed, and you're still not in alignment. So guess what? We can do this dance. You can do this dance, whatever. But this is what I've said. As the Alpha Omega, as the beginning and the end, as all there is in a myriad of expressions beyond your comprehension, I have said you're not with the rest of the class. So guess what? Have all the stuff, but you'll never be happy. Have all the stuff, you'll never feel whole. Have all the stuff, you'll never really feel complete. Have all the stuff, you won't ever feel fully healthy and healed. But you can have all the stuff. That's what gaming the system looks like. And what we miss out on. What is it we miss out on? How many times have you heard people with all the stuff get to a point in their life when they realize none of it was worth it because they lost out on an opportunity that was going to make them better? They lost out on a loving relationship that really was the thing that they wanted the most, but also scared them the most. How many times have you seen somebody have all the things and realize, I never wanted that stuff? That's the stuff society told me I should have, and I believe them. Not realizing, if I truly looked at society, a lot of these people are not reflecting happiness. They're reflecting a marathon with no destination of stuff. So here comes in this new energy, right? New energy, new earth is coming to us. And, it's not that things have changed so much as they've intensified, so much as they're moving quicker, they're manifesting a lot faster. And certain things that we were able to kind of get away with for a certain period of time, because you're never really getting away with anything, just aren't being tolerated for long periods of time anymore. You can have the stuff today and it's all gone tomorrow. You can have the stuff and your health today, and tomorrow have the stuff and your health is crap tomorrow, right? And then you can have the stuff and realize I'm completely empty. There's no love here. There's not even love for myself. I got all these things for myself, thinking I'm going to fill the void of what's missing within myself with accolades, with admiration from complete strangers that I don't really care about, with all the letters and initials behind my name that says I've made it, I've done something with my life, and yet here I am still feeling empty. That's going to become so much more acute. It's going to become so much more seemingly painful, because it's going to be so glaring and so in our faces. And then we also, as a species, are going to stop kind of going along with people who are willfully lying to themselves about where they are in their lives. People who were politely kind of going, oh, okay, I will absolutely, play along with this lie that you've been telling yourselves about where you are in life, out of politeness, out of civility. We don't have a lot of politeness and civility left anymore given the circumstances of what life has been like on planet Earth, I would say in the last decade or so. We don't have that much fake civility left, right? It is really a time where we're all being pushed to be authentic, to be real, to have integrity or to not have integrity, to be quote unquote, righteous in all our deeds, or just throw the whole thing away. You know what I mean? Because the push and the call of all that there is so intense. It is so relentless. And ignoring it is becoming harder and harder. The weight of it is becoming heavier and heavier. There's just really kind of almost no reprieve from it, right? So yeah, some people are looking for a lot of new, old, different ways and means to escape, to ignore, to go find a way to kind of not hear. But it's all there is. So what are you really doing other than taking momentary moments of delusion by, injection, snorting, doing, chanting, buying, selling, whatevering. That stuff's temporary. It's not going to sustain your self deluding, and we can actually kill ourselves trying to do stuff and then you're really in a pickle, especially when you find out having no body doesn't really solve your problems. Ask a medium; they'll tell you, no, physical death doesn't actually resolve any of our issues. So stop trying to game the system. It would take the same amount of energy we use to try to game the system, to try to lie, to try to pretend, to try to shirk awareness, responsibility. We could use that same energy to really just go inside, go within, and go, all right, it's a mess in here. Nobody else is going to come and clean it up. I guess I better get started. It's the same amount of energy. Obviously, what the difference between us doing one and the other is fear. Fear that, I'm going to lose it all. Fear that I'm going to go crazy. Fear that I'm going to hurt. Listen, can we just talk about real life for a second? If you don't get hurt in life, you're not really living. If you're not getting your heart broken, if you're not getting disappointed, if you don't cry, if you don't suffer egotistical blows, if you are living only on the mountains and you never walk through a valley, you're not living. You're not whole. You're not fully expressing everything that life has to offer. If you're not expressing all of your emotions, if you won't allow yourself to feel all your emotions, you're not really living. This is what all this stuff is here for. Not just for us to experience, but for us to relate to one another. So, there's no gaming the system. I mean, there's gaming yourself. There's gaming yourself. And I just really can't, at this point, looking back on everything that we know about our experience as a species, it's never looked worth it to me. It's never looked worth it to me. People who have passed recently, and some very inspiring people have passed in the last 10 years. The ones that really hurt the most are the ones that, as far as we know, gave it everything. Gave every amount of passion, of courage, of love that they could in their time here, in their relationships, in their works, in their expressions, whatever those when you're leaving it all on the dance floor, that's what makes it worth it. Not the part where you hid in, some sort of fortress, emotional fortress, or safe, where you just, kept this thing that was slowly basically eating away at you. No kudos for that. No rewards. No valor, if you will. We all hurt. We all have disappointment. We all have pain. And we all have a choice as to whether or not we're going to work through it, heal through it, and be better after it. after it, or if we're going to just drag it around like the baggage that it is and eventually drown in it. So you're fooling no one. You're definitely not fooling the creator of all things. You're not fooling, aware, smart, conscious people around you who are literally in their own personal struggle, if you will, to try to figure out themselves so that they can thrive in all of this paradise, if you will. So yeah, I just wanted to say that you're not gaming anybody. Nobody cares about the letters behind your name. No one really cares about your certifications, because the way that we learn as a species is by example. So if your life doesn't match what you say you're an expert in, what you're a master of, we all know, regardless of whether or not we're telling you. And we're all observing, and we all are noticing if you're struggling. And there's nothing wrong with struggling. Not at all. To a certain extent, we all have to struggle in order to grow, right? That's kind of just the nature of birth. There's just the struggle to just like form, breathe, walk, talk. There's a lot going on. Life is not simple. Life is complicated in a myriad of ways. But once we understand that there's a process in place, and we understand that we continuously have to show up, and every day may not be easy, every moment may not be a breeze, and we are supposed to be challenged, and we are supposed to be interacting, and we are supposed to have an impact on one another's lives and our journeys, then it's like, oh, okay, I get it. All right, so I'm gonna have to keep applying myself. Okay, I fell down, I scraped my knee, I'm bleeding a little bit. All right, get up, clean yourself off, try it again. That's how it goes. But if you have believed that your mental exercising was the actual work, no. You're not gaming the system, you're gaming yourself. Okay? So, thanks so much for listening. Namaste. Have a great day.